Coming up on Serial at Midnight, we fall down the twisted rabbit hole of a 1988 obscure cult classic. Is the story of this movie fact? Is it fiction? Or a blending of the two? Coming up on Serial at Midnight, we explore straight to VHS right after this. Guys, how are you? What's going on? We are talking about straight to VHS, and this is a conundrum of a movie. It's a documentary, but it's more than a documentary. It's a documentary with fictionalized elements in it. This one has thrown me, but I'm excited to talk to you about it because it's really interesting to me. This just showed up in my mailbox earlier today. I didn't request it. I didn't know what it was. I get things like this from time to time. It's sent, press copies. It's a review copy. It's burned on. It's a burned DVD for me to review and to write about or to tell you guys about. But it immediately caught my attention because, of course, VHS. The whole idea behind the movie, as I start to research it, it's a documentary about this really strange movie that some people saw and worshipped and studied. So let's start at the beginning. 1988, it's the straight-to-video boom. We're talking about Uruguay and Argentina. We're not in the U.S. We're in Uruguay and Argentina, and a movie appears. And the translation from Spanish, the movie is titled Act of Violence in a Young Journalist. It was written, directed, conceived, shot, everything pretty much by Manuel Lamas. No one knew who he was before that. No one knew who he was after that. The cast pretty much disappears. The director pretty much disappears. No interviews. They can't find him. We're talking 1988 to now, just falls off the face of the earth. And the movie is terrible, but it's terrible in a way that's super interesting. So there's, in the documentary, there's a lot of very educated critics talking about how it's so studyable, right? It's being compared to Plan 9 from Outer Space, to The Room, okay? But it's bad with like no redeeming qualities. Someone says, one of the critics says that it's shot poorly, it's acted poorly, it's written poorly. He's like, each of these things you could do badly, but to do everything so poorly, it's an achievement of something else. And they're like, was it deliberate? Was it a statement? Was it an art film? Chasing this movie, Act of Violence in a Young Journalist. So here we are all these years later, and this Uruguayan documentarian filmmaker has made a documentary about this movie, and he's trying to find the director and the cast and to explore who made this, where did it come from, why did it become such an obscurity. Some of these people that are interviewed here watch this movie like 5 times in a day. And not to bury the lead here, so this is a documentary about active violence in a young journalist, and that is included in its entirety. It's like an hour and 48 minutes. I'm not going to pronounce it. I'm not going to try it. It's all here. And it's fascinating. So here's where we get into the reality bending aspect. The story is told in 3 chapters. Chapter 1 is sort of setting the stage. It's the director narrating for us, telling us what this what the film is, what the act of violence film is, and then how everyone disappeared after making the movie. And then Act 2 is on the trail, trying to find the director, trying to find like what happened to these people. And then Act 3 is our closure. But it takes some twists and turns because this is such a cult movie. I'm going to compare it to like the Blair Witch or something, right? But I was going to say, but it's real. But is it? Is it real? So this has all been today. I can't find reviews of active violence before 2021 when this started playing festivals. I assume that it has existed all this time because clearly you watch the movie, the active violence movie. All the cars are old. It does look like the 80s fashion. Of course, we know we can fake these things, but it would have been a huge budget to fake these things. So I think that the movie is real, and I think that the story of trying to find these people is real. I do believe that they fell off the face of the earth. They just became so obscure, so off the grid, basically. And as the director's trying to line up interviews with people, they were like, yeah, let's do an interview. And then he's like, okay, how about next Tuesday? And then they never respond. He got ghosted by like 4 people, including the star of Active Violence. And it just becomes like, what is this movie cursed? Is this a cursed film? But then, so for 55 minutes, it's the story of active violence. And then for about 10 to 15 minutes after that, the director switches to narrative fiction. And I was like, well, I don't know about this. And then it becomes, so the whole movie, he's telling his story of trying to solve this mystery. And then it becomes a fictionalized, right? Like we're watching him try to solve the mystery. And he's acting, he's like calling people up. He's like, I don't know how to finish the movie. And there's score, there's music and everything. And it's like, what? Is this what we're doing for the end? Like, you didn't know how to end the movie? But guess what? Then after that, it switches back to the documentary style. It's so even in the press release for this thing, they say like they acknowledge that it's navigating between Lynch's Inland Empire and Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. Torres blurs the lines between reality and fiction, sometimes unwillingly. The subject is just too strange. This demented investigation takes him into an unfathomable spiral, both comical and terrifying, and we're dragged into a rabbit's hole along with him. That's accurate. I've watched it. That's accurate. It's fascinating. And here's the thing. I'm on the other side of this, right? And I'm like, I think this is real, but I'm not sure. It could all be an elaborate hoax. Again, an expensive hoax, I'm sure. So I think that what they have done here, I think what the director has done, I'm looking for the director's name so I can tell you guys exactly what his name is. Emilio Silva Torres is the director of the documentary. I think what he's done is he's taken an intriguing mystery and a real obscurity for most of the world, and he's packaged it in a fictionalized, larger-than-life story to get the message out there. And of course, this has played a bunch of festivals. And in this playing festivals, the original 1988 active violence movie has also been being explored. Again, I can see references for the movie. I found it on IMDb. I found it on Rotten Tomatoes. But I can't find any reviews older than 2021 for active violence. So I don't know. It's fascinating. And we get to watch the whole thing here. So again, the documentary is here, and then the original, active violence and a young journalist is here as well. It's all in Spanish. Documentary's in Spanish. Film is in Spanish with English subtitles. But it's it's crazy. It's crazy. So this is hitting discs and digital on, it looks like May 17th. Amazon's got a listing up for May 10th. I don't know. I don't know if I'd trust that. This is telling me May 17th, 2022. There's even an ad in here, not an ad, but there's a, Amazon Prime and Prime Video and then channels. So wherever you are in the world, if this sounds interesting to you, check it out. If you love the video era, that's the cool magic of that period of time. And we know so many people that contributed to those movies, right? We've talked to so many of them here. So many of our friends here behind the scenes cut their teeth making things in the 80s. J.R. Bookwalter is the one that immediately comes to mind. We look at David Sterling's done a lot of stuff. So many of these guys were making things for that direct to video market, straight to videotape for video stores. And it was a real Wild West of an era where you could find something, and without the internet, this stuff was so mysterious. And it's fascinating to me that in 2022, as this is being released, the documentary debuted in November of 2021 at festivals, I believe. But in 2022, that we could still have movies that we're just starting to explore and to figure out who made them or where they came from. It's really interesting to me. Whether you'll connect with it or not, I don't know. But that's I'm really intrigued by this. It's a fascinating story. What's real? What's not? I don't know. And you know what? I don't know that I care. I think that was the goal of the director, is to blend reality with fiction in a way that we don't care. And it worked. I don't care. I'm like, well, whatever is true and whatever is not, this is really interesting to me, because now I can watch the documentary and I can watch the original movie, which is so weird. It's so strange. And it's about a murderer and a woman who's trying, as a journalist who's trying to investigate the murder, it doesn't work, but it's impossible to look away. So, well done. You know what? Well done. That's my review. I don't know if I like it, but it's very well done. I'm very interested. So I guess I do like it. Straight to VHS. That's what you need to know. This is hitting digital and physical shelves soon. I'll put a link in the description of this video where you can pick it up too. And if you do, you'll be supporting Cereal at Midnight. You can also support us on Patreon if you want to see more reviews like this. Let me know. Shout it out. We'll continue the conversation in the comments below. Guys, thanks so much. Take care. Until next time, I will catch you later.